There is only one thing you must do to attract wealth and abundance in your life. Do you have any idea what that is? Maybe now you are thinking about the law of attraction, or that you must know the right people. Or maybe you are thinking of creating your own luck, studying and working hard. But the truth is that none of these things will bring you wealth. Actually, when I did some research on the internet on ways to get rich, not a single website talked about that. But what I will tell you in the next few minutes is the key to getting rich beyond your wildest dreams. And that is not something you need to go on a journey around the world to discover. You won't be able to buy it from any Instagram guru. And even worse, I never saw one speaker expert in wealth talking about it. Actually, what I will tell you is already inside of you. And I also didn't have any idea on how powerful this thing is until an old friend of mine discovered your billionaire boss's secret. And at a conversation we had in a bar, everything was revealed to me. And this thing that is already inside of you is capable of making you rich. But here is the secret: you need to activate it. So do you have any idea of what that is? Actually, I would be scared if you knew, because I had never heard about it. But today I noticed that my friend's billionaire boss only confirmed what the old Eastern secrets have kept for centuries. When you activate this thing inside of you, you will be able to attract money and wealth. And every human on planet Earth has the power to do that. Well, I know you must be doubting what I am saying. In the end, it looks too easy, right? But just watch this short presentation until the end, and you will see why this has the power to change your life completely. It has already changed mine and thousands of other lives around the world. Since I will tell you my humiliating story, let me first introduce myself. Hi, my name is Gabriel Howard, and I never imagined that I would be saying this to you. No matter how rich I am today, I was totally broke for almost all my life. If you ever felt you were on a hamster wheel financially, you know what I'm talking about. It looks like you are running in circles, only working and working, digging deeper into endless piles of debt. And if you're just like me, you probably already tried everything to get out of this situation. Studying the law of attraction, that didn't help me in anything. You already fell for Ponzi financial schemes, just like I did. I always worked 2 jobs for a very long time, thinking that this was the solution, but a little surprise would always show up, leaving me penniless. A broken car, an unexpected bill, you know how it goes. But it wouldn't matter how exhausting that was. I always kept trying, sacrificing my weekends to try to build a better life for my family. And look, sometimes being a good father is an ungrateful job. Nobody seems to care how much we work to give them the best. We can't even have some time to take care of ourselves. The truth is that nobody wants to hear a man complaining about how tired he is or how bad his mental health is. And there is nothing we can do because that's how our culture is. But I never worried about that. I always kept working hard to take care of my family. But then, there was a moment I hit rock bottom. In this moment, my masculinity was totally taken from me. Look at that. Only a few years ago, I was able to buy anything for my younger daughter's birthday. She was turning 5 and wanted a bicycle more than anything else in the world. But I had to choose between the bicycle she wanted or paying the bills that were delayed. In the end, the bills won. It was so humiliating. I had to beg and ask for loaned money before her birthday came. And guess who loaned it to me? My mother-in-law. That humiliated me for the rest of my life for not giving her daughter a life of luxuries. But I had to accept it to be able to buy her bicycle. I chose to leave my pride aside so my daughter wouldn't be sad during her birthday. But if that wasn't humiliating enough, what I heard from my mother-in-law was like I was stabbed in the chest. I heard her saying, "I always told you this was going to happen when you started dating Gabriel. I told you to marry someone that would be able to give you a better life." The worst thing is that she was right. What type of man cannot sustain his family? Deep inside, I didn't even feel like a true man. And at that moment, I swore I was going to leave that financial situation I was in. Without knowing what to do, I decided to go for a walk to cool my head down. For some reason, I decided to sit in a bar and drink something alone, something that I usually don't do. After having 2 beers, I noticed an old friend on the other side of the bar, Thomas. He kept on picking his cell phone up and putting it back in his pocket all the time, and every time, he would nod and he would smile. We weren't so close, but something told me to sit and talk with him, so I got closer and asked him if I could sit with him. I also noticed he had drank quite a lot already, so we started talking. It had been some time since we had seen each other. I was feeling better because of the beer, so I told him about my humiliating day. However, things weren't so much better for him. He had told me he was recently fired, but he didn't seem worried about it. When I asked where he was fired from, he told me he was working for one of the wealthiest billionaires in the country. While he talked, I noticed he kept looking at his cell phone. I finally asked about it. "Hey, Thomas, why do you keep checking your phone? It looks like something interesting is going on." His eyes suddenly got big. I could feel his fear. "Did anyone send you here?" he asked, irritated. I told him no and said I was curious because he didn't stop checking it. Thomas looked around, bent over me, and lowered his voice. "Look, man, I was fired because I found my boss's secret, because I saw something I shouldn't have. Something that can change our lives. Well, let me start from the beginning." Thomas started telling me about his old billionaire boss. He told me that everything he did worked well. Every investment, every new idea would make him earn tons of money. But the problem was his old boss was not super intelligent. He wasn't someone that deeply understood business. It looked like all luck. And that would bother Thomas because the fact was he would work 12 hours per day, including weekends, while his boss only showed up to check how things were progressing. So one day while he did some research, Thomas came across a scientific article. In this article, it was suspected that there was a way to activate the root chakra, which supposedly is responsible for attracting wealth in your life. It also mentioned that humans only used 8% of their DNA, which meant that there is still 92% of DNA in your body that is not used. Scientists refer to it as useless DNA, but in reality, this DNA is not so useless. It was just not activated yet, and this experiment from this article proved that there is a way to activate all your DNA. In reality, the experiment generated a scientific phenomena completely new that is getting more popular by the day, called epigenetics, which is the scientific term for the changes that happen in the body. So it was scientifically proven in this article that 92% of the DNA that before was called useless is only DNA in your body that is waiting to be activated. It makes sense, right? Why would our bodies have all this DNA if we were only able to use 8% of it? But here is what no one is talking about. Our DNA is only a sophisticated scientific term for our chakras. In case you don't know what chakras are, they are energy points that are inside of your body. And humans have known about chakra since at least 500 years before Christ, but it just got popular in recent years. But why is that important? Because it was proven that all humans have the wealth DNA inside of their bodies. In other words, the root chakra. But the problem is that it was not activated in 99% of the people. And if you can manage to activate this wealth DNA just like the experiment proved it is possible, you will never have to worry about money again. It will only flow into your life. It will look like there is a superior power sending you incredible opportunities for earning money that involve little to no work. It will look like it was a coincidence most of the time. Thomas told me that a few years ago, when the company he worked for had declared bankruptcy. His boss started to get obsessed with studying chakra, DNA, and these things, and that also he had made a trip to Nepal to dig deeper into this. After this trip, things started to change completely for his boss. In little time, he transferred his almost broke company into one of the biggest companies in the country and became an extremely successful billionaire. And then I asked Thomas, "So it means that your old boss found out how to enable the wealth DNA in this trip?" Thomas looked me in the eyes, smiled, and said, "Exactly. Wow, I don't even want to imagine the kind of mad process that must be necessary to activate this DNA," I said while I looked into the void. But Thomas told me that I would be surprised to know how simple that is. The crazy thing is that this technology is based on Gregorian songs from the 9th century. Actually, Its base is even older than that. A long time ago, there was a Greek philosopher called Pythagoras. He used to sing songs like medicine. He called it sacred geometry. It is worth remembering that this was before Christ's birthday. And even today, shamans are known for using songs in their ceremonies. Why? Because the sound vibrations are capable of changing our generic expressions. In other words, we can enjoy the power of the sound to activate our DNA that is asleep. The funny thing is that this study took years to find out what the ancient Eastern spiritual leaders already knew, that we are able to enable our wealth DNA through the power of sound waves. If you are not living life with the financial abundance that you wish, this simply means that your root chakra is not vibrating in the frequency it should be. That's what is preventing wealth to flow to you. The truth is that the way our chakras vibrate affects what we attract. Low vibrations attract negative people, lack of opportunity, and lack of general abundance. High vibrations attract positive people, opportunities falling in your lap, and a constant flow of abundance and wealth. So that means we can activate our wealth DNA with some type of music? Thomas nodded, and he guaranteed me that his old boss proved it was possible, but obviously he never shared this with anybody. So Thomas pulled out his phone and told me. One day he was working late. He had to pick up some papers in his boss's office, and when he entered the room, he noted that he had forgotten a paper with some code on his desk. He said, "Look, I don't usually touch other people's stuff, but it looks like something told me I had to look at these codes, so I took a picture with my phone." He said he was sure these codes were the frequency the music had to be to activate the wealth DNA, but he had no idea how to decode the codes. After Thomas told me that, I felt depressed. I had gotten so excited with that, and now we didn't know how to decode the codes. But then I remembered about my nephew. He was a brilliant young man that worked in the military intelligence in the Army, and he worked as a translator for binary codes. The coincidence was just too crazy, but I accepted it as a sign from the universe that I had to do something. I told Thomas about the amazing coincidence and asked if he would be okay if we asked my nephew to decode the notes for us. In the end, what was the meaning of having this document if we couldn't understand it? Thomas agreed at the same moment. 2 days later, we met in a bakery. When Thomas and I told him about the secret experiment and about our wealth DNA, he got very skeptical. He didn't seem to believe it. He took a copy of the code home and promised me to take a look. The following night, he called me and told me he had decoded part of the code and that he had decoded 2 specific numbers. When I turned my phone off, I couldn't even contain my excitement. My hands were sweating. Maybe I was finally going to get rich and throw it back to my mother-in-law. Thomas had already researched a company to produce the audio tracks for us. We thought that if we produced 2 soundtracks, one in each frequency, one of them would have to be the frequency that would activate our wealth DNA. When we received the call that the soundtracks were ready, I was super happy. Do you know that feeling? It felt like I was floating in the air. In the end, Thomas guaranteed me that it was all 100% true, so we decided to experiment 1 track at a time. He listened to a frequency for a couple of days and I the other. I switched the audio track the whole day for a whole week, and well, nothing happened. Actually, I lost money during that time. I received a ticket for speeding. My car broke down and I lost a bet I made on a game. And Thomas wasn't doing any better. Honestly, at this moment, I started to think everything was nonsense. I wonder if that was really true. Did Thomas make everything up? Was this entire experiment a lie? I felt stupid and ashamed. I think that deep down inside, all I wanted was to believe everything was true. And I almost gave up everything at that moment. We had exact frequencies and still nothing was happening. There had to be some valuable information in the code that we still didn't know about. In the end, the only thing that we had found out until now were the numbers of the frequency. So I invited Thomas and my nephew to talk. We went to the same bar where I met Thomas. We were very upset with the experience. At a certain moment, Thomas and my nephew were trying to talk with one another, and I was trying to hear them all at the same time. At this moment, when I was trying to hear the 2 of them at the same time, I had an idea. What if we listened to the 2 frequencies at the same time? In the next week, the 3 of us tested the theory, and we agreed to meet in the bar again to discuss our experience. Nothing had changed for me and Thomas, only another bad week. But my nephew came smiling. It happened that he managed to be promoted in his job, and he also had an increase in his salary and got a huge office only for him. Besides that, he found a $100 bill on the floor next to the table where they were seated, the same $100 that was there the whole time, that Thomas and I didn't even see. Thomas looked to my nephew and said, "Your wealth DNA. You activated it. This works." We immediately started to discuss it because it was working for my nephew, but not for us. It happens that my nephew did things a little bit differently from us. He listened to the soundtracks in the morning when he woke up, while Thomas and I listened to it in the afternoon. We all looked with open eyes and dropped jaws. Maybe that was it. Had we really decoded the code? In this moment, the waiter brought us our bill, but not my nephew's. The waiter said a random person paid for his drinks before leaving the bar. The signals couldn't be clearer. It looked like we had successfully activated my nephew's wealth DNA. After some months had gone by, we three were using the method to listen to the audio soundtrack in the morning when we woke up, and we all experienced a complete transformation in our lives. My nephew signed a contract for almost $1 million to create a software that decodes code, allowing him to retire. Thomas earned $500,000 in a lawsuit that was in court for over 10 years. He then bought some land with the money, and after some months, people started to build a shopping mall in front of the land he had bought, and then they were worth over $3 million. What about me? Well, I had the most bizarre series of events happening in my life. First, I found out that my great-aunt had died and left me an inheritance of $327,000. But the worst thing is that I had never met this great-aunt before. She was just a distant relative that I had never met. I didn't know she was rich, and I still don't know why she left me that money. Soon after, I met a businessman that invited me to be his partner in his new franchise business. And this company of ours made profits of almost $2.7 million in our first year only selling franchises. I can affirm with certainty that we had activated our wealth DNA. The three of us left middle class to have all this money falling in our laps in less than a year. The problem is that we kept it all a secret. Instead of starting to buy supercars or mansions, we put that money in the bank and remained silent. Because in the beginning, we didn't know what to do with all this. We knew we wanted to share this information. We weren't going to be selfish like Thomas's old boss. But who would we share it with? And how would we do it? The first person we told about this was Thomas's brother. He was having financial issues after he was fired from his job as a machine operator. After a few weeks, he joined a society and now has his own business that rents and sells machines. He is earning triple the amount he earned when he was only an employee. We then tried with other family members, and one by one, we activated their wealth DNA. The people we knew started to ask us what we were doing to get rich. At this moment, we noticed that it was time to share this with everybody. So, I am excited to show you the Abundant Wealth Code. These are the soundtracks that demonstrably activate your wealth DNA. And the best part is that they do it effortlessly. There is nothing in the world like this. While everyone is running after money, working 8 to 12 hours a day, you simply need to listen to these frequencies 7 minutes after you wake up and wait for the wealth DNA to activate. Now I want you to think for a minute about all the ways people try to get rich. Play the lottery. Good luck with that. Invest in stocks without understanding how it works and losing a lot of money. Spend $100,000 in university and then leave without having a job. Work in 2 or 3 jobs only to pay your bills. Falling for some scheme to get rich quick and end up being in a situation worse than when you started. And I don't want you to have to go through any of that. And that's why I am so excited to share with you the Abundant Wealth Code, because I am here to help you get out of this rat race you are stuck in, working your whole life for some ungrateful boss only because you have bills to pay, looking at the people that should support you, doubting you like it was the case with my mother-in-law. And it looks like it is impossible to progress, but it doesn't matter how much you work. There is always something that keeps showing up. In a way, you can survive only to pay bills. And I want to tell you that it's not all your fault. Our modern system was set up this way. But now you know there is a wealth DNA inside you. You can join thousands of other people that used the Abundant Wealth Code to completely transform their lives. Look at this testimonial I received from Jonathan. I worked all my life as a seller, but I didn't have a job for over 6 months. It was then I met the Abundant Wealth Code. In the beginning, I was very skeptical, but since I had a lot of free time, I decided to test it. The incredible thing was that in 2 weeks of listening to it, my whole life changed completely. I received a proposal to help record a training for sellers that a friend of mine had created. Today, I receive a percentage of the sales for this training without having to do anything. Besides that, I still make speeches in person for companies that pay me a fortune. Activating my wealth DNA completely changed my life. Or another testimonial I received from Rachel. Hi, I'm Rachel, a single mother that was struggling financially when a friend of mine introduced the Abundant Wealth Code. I always believed in hard work. However, working as a teacher was not taking me anywhere. But as soon as I activated the wealth DNA, money started flowing in abundance in my life. And I finally managed to quit my job and open my own particular school for kids. Also a testimonial from Tony. I always felt something inside me that prevented me from living the wealthy life I always dreamed of. When I found out that I had to activate my wealth DNA to be able to attract money for my life, everything started making sense. And I have to admit that, and I went from being a waiter with a minimum wage job to being a manager of a restaurant network to earn over $150,000 per year. And the best thing, I only work a few hours per day, checking how the operations are. It was the best thing that happened in my life, and it was all thanks to the Abundant Wealth Code that freed what already was inside of me. I'm very grateful for this program. Now, you are probably thinking, how do I use the Abundant Wealth Code? And I'd love to answer that because it is so simple. That's how you must do it. Wake up in the morning, sit down with a cup of coffee or whatever you usually drink in the morning, press play on your phone or computer, and listen to the frequency for 7 minutes, and then go enjoy your day. It's really as easy as that. All you have to do is let the wealth DNA act. You will soon start to see money, wealth, and abundance flowing to your life. Just like how it happened to my nephew, to Thomas and myself, and also thousands of people that tested the Abundant Wealth Code. But I have to warn you about something first. I don't know how much time this page will stay on the air. I am telling you this because this is the only place where you can obtain the Abundant Wealth Code. Do you know why? Thomas's old billionaire boss is not happy because this information leaked to the public. This should have been a secret that the elites keep for themselves. And the people that are part of the 1% of the pyramid are afraid that if everybody activates their wealth DNA, they won't be able to keep the domain over the wealth of the world. These people didn't end up having 99% of the world's wealth by luck. They don't want other people to know this. And I know this because they already tried to take this website down multiple times. And unfortunately, they already managed to do this sometimes. But now they are using all their power against me. And next time, I'm not sure we will be able to recover this website again. So if you want to guarantee your Abundant Wealth Code, and who doesn't, I ask you to not close this page until you have guaranteed yourself a copy. And let me explain something to you. I didn't create this program for me. I already have all the money I need. I could easily disappear to an island somewhere and live in peace for the rest of my life. But I feel that I have to expose the truth. There is no reason to let people continue to suffer. I remember working hard every day was the only way to survive. That's why I will not ask you to pay a pile of money to have your copy of the Abundant Wealth Code, because the two of us know that I could charge for this discovery that changed my life. In fact, many people told me that I should charge over $5,000 for this track, but I'm not here for the money. My mission is to advertise it to the largest number of people before the billionaire finally takes this site down forever. And charging a heavy price like this will eliminate the majority of the people I want to help. So I will not ask you to invest anything close to $5,000 today. Wow, I won't even ask you to pay half of that. Actually, I'm not even interested in profiting from this. Everything I ask you is to cover the necessary expenses to create these tracks and administrate the website, which means your investment will only be $27. I know